Tuning into SciFi TV, the viewer's guide to genre television for the week of August 22nd to August 28th, 2015.
How did this happen? Where did it go? It should have been there last week's episode. I thought I was set up with my season pass. Now the new show is out, and I don't know what happened last week. How did my TiVo forget?
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I am Wendy Hembrock.
I'm Brent Barrett.
And I'm Kevin Batchelder.
And we are winding down the summer. It is T-minus 6 days until Kevin and I go to DragonCon, which means we'll have a pass on the normal weekly show next week. But there'll be plenty of other goodies coming out from a lot of our bonus feeds. Also, we have a new poll up for you to weigh in on, looking at actor Amanda Tapping from, I think, mostly from Stargate. But we want to know, which character do you like the most that she's played? And she's been in a lot of stuff. Stargate, Sanctuary, Killjoys, Supernatural, Millennium, Forever Night. We're going back a while to the X-Files and even the Outer Limits. So let us know when you started to really become a fan of Amanda Tapping.
Yeah, and it looks like, of course, as usual, as expected, Sam Carter is winning quite a bit, followed by Helen Magnus. I figured those two would be at the top since those were her longer roles, but I find it really interesting how many shows she had been in, and more interestingly, the fact that she played the same character name twice there. It looks like her first character in genre TV of Naomi Ross in Forever Night, and then her character of Naomi, the angel, the archangel or whatever, in Supernatural. That was pretty interesting coincidence.
Well, you cover enough shows, and there's got to be some overlap, I think.
Yeah, plus knowing how much the writers on Supernatural are super geeks, they might have picked the name because it was a character she played a long time ago. Okay, so let's start with the water cooler.
Come in, relax at the SciFi Diner Spa. Let the cares of the Galactic Empire drift away under the hands of one of our certified massage therapists. Has our favorite Gungan senator been annoying you?
Mr. Jar Binks, Mr. Your humble servant.
Let the fingers of one of our Twi'lek slave girls rub your frustration many parsecs away. Or perhaps you just found out that your father is a Sith Lord.
I am your father.
Our Wookiee massage therapists specialize in deep tissue massage. Send a holonet transmission to the SciFi Diner Spa to make your appointment. The SciFi Diner bears no responsibility should one of our Wookiees decide to go on a rampage and strew your guts from one end of the galaxy to the other due to frustration pent up against Palpatine and what happened on Kashyyyk.
And first up, we're going to talk about the quick reviews for the shows that were on this week. We're starting with Sunday, We're starting with Sunday, the 23rd of August. Falling Skies, episode 9 of season 5, the final season reunion. Watch it soon.
I've given up.
And I'm not watching.
Yeah, I'm just dragging my butt over the finish line, I gotta say. Moving on to Fear the Walking Dead, the pilot premiere, episode 1 of season 1. I would say watch it soon.
Yeah, I'd say it was a decent pilot episode. Not as bad as I feared, but not as good as I had hoped. Low end, watch it soon.
And I'm purposely waiting to hear what you two think and some others, so it's still on my DVR.
Aha. And The Last Ship, episode 11 of season 2, Valkyrie. Really like this one. Watch it now.
Yeah, I agree. Watch it now.
And it's a three-peat. Watch it now.
Sunday's other show, The Strain, episode 7 of season 2, The Bourne. I'm not watching this.
I would say high-end, watch it soon.
I'm not watching either.
Moving to Monday, Teen Wolf, episode 10 of season 5, Status Asthmaticus. Low, watch it soon.
Yeah, I'd give this one just a slightly higher nod, because it actually had some exciting bits in it. Watch it soon.
Right in that same area as both of you. As a longtime Teen Wolf fan, I guess I'll be nice and say watch it soon.
Yeah, I was probably a little harsh. It did provide some answers finally. And The Whispers, episode 12 of season 1, Traveler in the Dark. I think I'm the only one watching this, and I would say watch it soon.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not watching.
Neither am I.
It's actually turning into a pretty good story, though. And Tuesday, From Dusk Till Dawn, the premiere episode of season 2, opening night. I'm not watching this.
Nor am I.
I really enjoyed it. Good start to the season. I'd say it's a high watch it soon.
Excellent. And Scream, episode 9 of season 1, The Dance. I'm not watching this either.
Continues to be my background show. We have one of these or two of these every year. And nothing great. I'd say high end, let it sit.
Yeah, I'm not watching myself.
Wednesday, Extant, episode 10 of season 2, Don't Shoot the Messenger. I only saw part of this, so I'm not going to rate it.
I'd go high end, watch it soon.
Not on my viewing calendar.
The parts that I saw were pretty engrossing, but I joined about 20 minutes late into the episode.
Ah.
And moving on to Thursday, Beauty and the Beast, episode 12 of season 3, Sins of the Father. I would give it a low watch it soon.
I'm still collecting these on the DVR. I'll watch them someday.
Yeah, not one that I watch.
And Sci-Fi Friday with 2 episodes of Dark Matter, episode 12, just called episode 12, and episode 13, just called episode 13, which was the season finale. I would say watch it now.
I'm going to give both episodes I'll say low end, watch it now.
And I couldn't go as high as you two. I would just say middle to maybe upper watch it soon for the finale, certainly.
And Defiance, episode 13 of season 3, Upon the March We Fittest Die. I would say watch it now.
I love this one. Think it was the highlight of the week for me. High end, watch it now.
It was good.
Very solid. Watch it now for me.
Cool. And we're also streaming Sense8. I'm not actually watching it yet, but we're up to episode 11 of season 1. Just Turn the Wheel and the Future Changes. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, this is the next to last episode. I told you guys, I thought it was a cool series at the end, and mostly because of the last couple of episodes, and this is one of them. Watch it now.
Yeah, looking forward to watching this one come September.
I also have a lot of friends who tell me they're all catching up on this series now, too, and recommending it. So, looking forward myself to catching up when I get a minute. And we're continuing our summer watch/rewatch of The Almighty Johnsons. We're up to episode 11 of season 3. A bit like Buses, really. I would give it a high watch it soon.
Yeah, I don't remember my vote, but this is also one of the final few episodes of the series, and you can tell it's ramping up.
Yeah, I'm with you, Wendy. It's a high watch it soon for me as well.
Yeah, I think we might talk about this a little bit later, since we haven't talked about the show in a while. So let's move on to some listener feedback and news. First, we've got a voicemail from Scott in Cape Cod about Brent's recent Tuner Minute about connections lost.
Computers and technology are great when they work, but when they don't, they're like that famous Cicada 3301 puzzle or the Nautilus puzzle from Person of Interest. Brent can explain what those are. If my life had taken a different path, maybe I'd be one of those guys who fixed these kind of computer malfunctions. But I now call my local tech wizard for help, and he boils up a cauldron of chicken feet, eye of newt, maybe some unicorn horn powder, and a little garlic to fix the problem. It's tasty, too, actually. I think if you IT guys can fix these problems, you should wear the outfit in the picture I attached in my email. I guess you'll just have to describe it to your listeners. Suffice to say, it's amazing that humans can get these things, these machines, to do what they do without resorting to some sort of magic.
Hey, thanks, Scott. Yeah, the picture he sent along was basically some wizard outfits, just to summarize. I can't really explain those Person of Interest references. I vaguely remember them, but I couldn't really go into great detail. Maybe you need to send an email follow-up to Kevin and Winnie to explain that, or maybe Kevin's catching up on the show eventually, and he'll get to that as well. Yeah, you know what? I'm a software engineer by trade, and one of the things I've always hated my entire adult life is friends and family, mostly family, assuming that I can fix all of their computer problems. And while I probably could, I don't want to, because it's really annoying to not do the things I want to do and instead to do work when I'm not working. So I tend to use the excuse I've used it many, many times. Hopefully, no one from my family is listening. I'm a software guy. I can't help you with that. I don't understand hardware. It works sometimes. It doesn't always work.
And being the network engineer, I can't get away with that since I do know the hardware and the software. And yes, I have a line forming for everything from advice to fixes to everything in between, despite, the thing for me that drives me nuts, especially with the family members, is when you've told them 3 times, okay, you need to back that up because, something can fail. And then it's, oh my God, it failed. Can you save me? Well, refer back to our previous discussions. Okay. So yeah, we have some fun, but yeah, we do rely on this stuff, same way at work. Everybody loves me when everything's working. And when things aren't working, yeah, I'm the most popular guy, but not with the most popular opinions as far as not getting people's things fixed. So like we said, we love our stuff when it works. When it doesn't, it's the end of the world.
I'm laughing because people ask me, I work for a systems integration firm, and I know a lot about technology, but I don't know a lot about home computing. And I get a lot of random hardware questions or, particular apps or apps for your phone. And it's like, this really isn't my area of interest, but there's this thing called Google that works great to find stuff out. So I was just laughing at Brent talking about how it's not his area. Also, thanks for your picture, Scott. I'm guessing that's you dressed up like Dumbledore. But that was
I don't know about that, but I'll have to go back and look at it and use that assumption, yes.
Great visual. We appreciate it a lot. So let's move on to some news. First up, Kevin's going to talk about a show that was renewed for season 2 and now seems to be canceled from VH1.
Yeah, this is for Hindsight, the show that we all watched and enjoyed to varying levels. And even though I wasn't a big fan of it towards the end of the first season, I was looking forward to season 2, and it was renewed. We reported on that several weeks back, maybe even a couple months. So for the first time in a while, the network has decided, yeah, we did say it's renewed, but we changed our mind. There's this whole blurb. If you want to hear, blah, blah, blah stuff, check out what the network put in the statement. Things to the effect as, we loved this show and we were proud of it, but in this overcrowded, rapidly changing climate, we need to do blah, blah, blah. And as a result, we're no longer moving forward. The end.
Yeah, it was pretty harsh, actually, because I was reading it like, yeah, we loved this show, but it doesn't have enough viewers, so we canceled it. The disappointing part...
And that's what they should have
said. I mean, that's what I read between the lines of his comment. But the disappointing part is the cliffhanger. It's like, at least make a 2-hour movie and wrap it up for, the people who did get all in for season 1.
Yeah, I mean, come on, or either that or switch it to MTV because you guys are all in the same family, and MTV's got all this original programming now and hasn't had music videos in 20 years. But you move it there. I mean, come on. But yeah, I had flashbacks to Farscape, when SciFi renewed Farscape for 2 seasons at the end of season 3. And then come mid-season 4, they're like, we changed our minds. This will be the last season.
Yeah. Very disappointing, I gotta say. So let's move on to something a little more positive, which is testing news. If you don't want to know, I'm going to talk about The Flash and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so skip ahead. First up, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is adding an NFL tackle to the mix. Matthew Willig is coming on to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It appears he's going to play a character that does exist in the comics named Lash, but I don't have a good idea about what his character does. There's a picture of the character along with the actor, and he's got glowing red eyes and looks kind of scary.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with the Inhuman side of Marvel, the Marvel Universe. I think that started after I stopped reading the comics on a regular basis. But he is an Inhuman, apparently, so I think he's going to be a bad guy, especially since it indicates in the article that he's going to be one of the woes added to Coulson's plate. So, and also they speculate here in the article that he's going to be under a lot of prosthetic makeup, given the appearance of the character in the comics. And a thought occurs to me, and that is that, yeah, that kind of makes sense because they tend to cast, I think, they tend to cast these stunt castings or so. Now, maybe this guy isn't a stunt cast. It said he was on NCIS. I don't recognize him. Maybe he only had a guest appearance or something. I don't remember what he did there, but they tend to, when they do these kind of stunt casts, especially with people who aren't really, I wouldn't say not actors, but they're just they acting wasn't their first thing. In this case, they tend to put him in some prosthetics and makeup and stuff too, to kind of help sell the character. So that's not a big surprise to me that they cast him for this role, I guess.
Yeah, and he's a huge guy. I mean, he's listed as 6'8" and over 300 pounds, so he's going to look pretty menacing in any makeup and just physically too. So, looking forward to it. Can't say, as you both mentioned, it's anyone I recognize, both from NFL days or acting days, but I'm sure his presence on screen will be pretty big.
Whenever I read stuff like this, it reminds me of that Brady Bunch episode where Greg gets cast onto a musical group, and it's because he fits the suit. And when you're saying the guy's 6'8", I'm assuming it's because he fits the suit for the character, more than his acting ability. The other casting news I've got is about The Flash. They're adding another speedster to the mix. The actor's name is Violet Bean. She's coming into season 2. And let me see if I can find the name of her character. Her character's name is Jessie Quick. And she has super speed powers. She's also described as a quirky college student. She sounds kind of like the female version of Barry. I don't recognize the actor, but I'm assuming we're going to see her speeding around in something. And there's a picture with the article of her character from the comics, which looks sort of like the Flash. I mean, it's red and yellow, but much shorter.
Yeah, it's no wonder we don't recognize her. The article does point out she is a newcomer, so she doesn't really have much of a resume. She's very young. And I don't know. I guess I'll have to wait and see. I don't know that I'm excited to see more speedsters. I kind of liked Barry being kind of unique, but then again, we had the yellow guy, the Reverse Flash. We also had other Flashes from other universes, and we saw a glimpse of that potential in the first season. So I guess it's no surprise they're not casting more, but I don't know. I'll have to wait and see how they play it out.
Yeah, I mean, I was interested. I'm intrigued a little bit. Curious what it's going to create for a dynamic. Flash is a show that I like but don't necessarily love, so I'm always intrigued when you're going to have a little new dynamic thrown in. Could be fun. Yeah,
it seems like they're going to, keep throwing people with special skills at us a lot in this show, so I think that's good. It also kind of keeps Barry on his toes if he's not the only game in town when it comes to being speedy. Let's move on, though. Brent has a first look at Looking Glass to talk about.
No, Speedy's on the other show, Wendy. Yeah, it is a first look at Looking Glass. It's one of those videos where it's kind of a mixture of a trailer and then some interviews with people and so forth, give you a little background of the show. And I think it did a really good job. This is the one that was initially announced as a retelling or restructuring or whatever of Frankenstein, if you recall. And we read the kind of summary of what it was going to be about, and we said, how does this have anything to do with Frankenstein? We don't understand. And this one does a little better job. They renamed it, of course, or they gave it a name. I don't know if they ever were calling it Frankenstein, but they gave it the name Looking Glass. And this does a pretty good job of explaining it. A brother and sister managed to get a hold of this old, disgraced, dead cop who everybody believes committed suicide, and they managed to put him into a brand new, artificially manufactured, I believe, I don't know, body. It seemed that way. And, he's in this other body, and now it's not very original. I mean, there's been other shows, I think Now and Again or something like that, I can't remember, that did that sort of thing as well. Other shows have done that. But this one's, that they do it because the sister is dying, so he's kind of a test, I think, and they're going to try to do, prolong the sister's life or something of that nature. But everything goes wrong, of course, because he escapes with his superpowers that he has because he's some sort of manufactured superhuman. And so this is a pretty interesting story. I mean, like I said, everybody believes he committed suicide, but he says, no, I was thrown off a bridge by some thugs who were after my son, so I have to go protect my son. So it looks like a pretty good setup. I think I'll check it out. I liked other shows like this in the past, so I have a feeling I'll probably dig this one.
Yeah, I took a look at it, and I'm very much ambivalent. It's nice that it's got a little more definition now of what it is and a name that seems a little more appropriate. But I can't say that it really grabbed me. So I'm going to probably be a very much wait and see, meaning either some more trailers, a little more info ahead of time, maybe wait on the first episode. So, It's nice that we've got a little more definition for it. That I'm glad to see, but I'm not sure it's going to be one that I'm personally looking forward to.
Well, I'm really glad they gave it a name that has nothing to do with Frankenstein, because, as you mentioned, Brent, the premise and the connection is so thin, it's not worth the effort to get there. I really like the actor who plays the old man that is, going to get reanimated into this young guy. And as you mentioned, he's probably like the prototype, because they're going to try to do it with the sister who's dying. So I'm eager for that, because I'm always interested when you have a story about, a person who's lived a long life and has things they might try to do over or be differently about on their second chance. So I'll be curious if that's an element that they actually explore about the character. And I'm also a little intrigued, though, about these two siblings and their relationship with their creation, whether they can control him or not. I agree, though, there's nothing here that really seems out of the box and new, but it could be an interesting combination of some familiar story setups. And let's move on to a story we're very familiar with. Kevin's got some news about Teen Wolf following I guess it's the half-season finale. I don't know how to describe it, but it's the halfway point through the season.
Yeah, that's what MTV's been doing. Now that they've been running longer seasons for Teen Wolf, about 20 or 20-plus episodes. They kind of do them as A and B. So this week we had the, if you will, the mid-season finale. And naturally, when that happens, you're going to have some chats with the showrunner. Jeff Davis is always very available and very willing to talk about what's happening on the show. So we've got 2 different links in the show notes. I can't go into detail, obviously, folks, here in the water cooler. But if you are current on Teen Wolf, I think you'll enjoy them both. There is some overlap of discussion points, but there's kind of a different angle in each of them. So again, Teen Wolf fans will probably dig in. The first one is very lengthy from Entertainment Weekly. Talking very much about, so what, I saw this happen, what does that mean? And this character was teased, what's that going to be? And he really fills in a lot. So if you want to know some more, it's well worth it. The other one from TV Line is very good, a little shorter, but kind of talking a little more about the wrap-up side of, so that happened and it means this. So again, similar. So if you want to dig into both, take a look. I found it helpful on some points. Some stuff, it's still very, the answers are a little, check out the first episode of the second half, or we'll be dealing with that soon. So it's not like it's answering things. If nothing else, maybe it was confirming a couple of characters we haven't seen recently or going to be showing back up and stuff. So Teen Wolf fans, people who like to learn a little more, you're good. I don't see anything relating to any spoilers here, though.
Yeah, I mean, if you're current, there's not future spoilers. I would agree. I haven't been a big fan of this season of Teen Wolf. It's been kind of a mess, and reading these was good because it sort of maybe reminded me of some things I might have forgotten. The teaser preview for what's coming next, I'm, ambivalent about, I have to say.
Yeah, I haven't been a fan of this season at all. I mean, let me give you a non-spoilery summary of my impressions and reactions watching this season. It started out in the first episode, me going, "Oh, that's interesting," and then it was like, "What? I don't understand. I'm confused. What's going on? What the heck is happening? I don't understand where the show is going. This is crazy." And then finally, the last episode that aired, I thought, "Oh, yeah, it's just kind of interesting." And then boom, I hear it's the mid-season finale. I'm like, "What just happened in those 10, 12, whatever episodes that we just saw? What happened? I don't understand. It's a jumbled mess," and maybe this article will help a little bit with that. But I have to ask myself, and I gotta believe that this was some kind of experiment they intentionally did to make a disjointed story that left you confused and not knowing what was going on, so that you'd come back for more. But I don't know that it worked. I think the only reason I kept coming back for more is because I had to, almost because I'm doing this podcast. I think if I was just the average viewer and I started at like 5 episodes into this, I would have just said, "You know what? I'll just save this on the DVR and watch it some other day when people explain to me what's going on."
Yeah, I think unless you really like these characters or any one in particular, I don't know that you would make it as far. I agree. I wouldn't be watching the show if we weren't talking about it on this podcast. And if it hadn't sort of built up some credit from prior seasons that I really, really liked. I've pretty much only been in this season for the Lydia and Styles myself.
It's funny because your summary, Brent, was very similar to mine and a few other folks. And I listened to a podcast this week where some folks were talking about some different genre shows. And when they talked about Teen Wolf, those people on that show were just over the top excited about what's happened in this season. And when they started breaking down why, it's because they were big fans of angst. And we had a lot of angst. This very much, we were all pleasantly surprised the first couple of seasons of Teen Wolf with how strong the story was and how little teen angst there really was. It was all that was in there was true to the story, and the show's moved much more into the relationships and some of the things happening there. A little more in the true MTV model, and now that they've given them so many episodes, they've watered them down. So yeah, much like the two of you, I loved this show the first couple of years, but I'm starting, it's good credit, Wendy, like you mentioned, has run out now. It's going to need to keep me by doing good story, and I'm a little concerned it's going to.
Yeah, at the end of this season, I'll watch the back half to see how they tie things up, but I will definitely be making a judgment. I'm not going the Falling Skies route on this show, I can tell you that. In terms of hanging on too long, for sure.
But what's interesting for me is it's the opposite. I would go the Falling Skies route with this show because it built up so much good cred that I would stick it out if to see where it goes. Falling Skies never built up the cred with me, so that's why I finally just gave up and said, you know what, screw this.
Yeah, I guess my affection for Noah Wyle as an actor was the going in credits. The show itself didn't earn, but he did. So that must be why I stuck it out. Well, let's move on to a show that we've all been watching off and on, though not recently, American Horror Story. And Jessica Lange has been, one of the highlights of this show for sure. And she's said before that she wasn't coming back for the upcoming season. But it may turn out that she might be back for a cameo in season 5. She's already actually working on a Broadway show that conflicts, and she might be coming back for more. She might even be coming back as a character she played in season 1, which would be very cool because that was kind of one of the outstanding parts of season 1. So I might get a little bit more interested in coming back to American Horror Story in the next season. This is the one that's set around a hotel. It's going to have Lady Gaga in it, as well as some other new folks coming in. Michael Chiklis is going to be one of the main characters too. So if folks are Jessica Lange fans, they might be happy to hear this news.
I'm glad that they're finding some way to add to the continuity and keep her in the show to some degree. I think that's good news. American Horror Story has been uneven. I mean, I gave up on the first season pretty soon. Second season, I really enjoyed. Third season, it was okay. And then I didn't watch whatever the most recent stuff was, and I don't think I'm planning to watch this either. I think it's a combination of horror's not really my thing, and I say that, earlier telling everybody that I watch Scream in the background. Horror's not really my thing. It doesn't bother me. It's just not really what I enjoy watching. And also I'm kind of used. I mean, originally American Horror Story was kind of cool because it was season-long anthology aspect to it, and I thought that was cool. But that's kind of worn off. That kind of fad is worn off on me, and the new shine has buffed up a bit. So I don't know. I'm probably not going to come back.
Yeah, I only watched the first season, which, again, much like you, horror isn't my go-to genre. Sometimes certain shows or movies will click with me. First one was okay. After that, it just hasn't seemed that interesting. But again, the continuity aspect to it, and I know the popularity. A lot of folks are very rabid fans of this show, so they're going to be very excited to see her back in there.
Yeah, I mean, season 1 was kind of an introductory train wreck because there were certain characters, Jessica Lange being one of them, that I really liked. Season 2 is still my favorite. That was the Asylum. That was the one set like in the late 50s or early 60s in the insane asylum. Season 3 was the Witches one in New Orleans, which was okay, but I didn't love it. Didn't watch the last season, which was the Freak Show stuff. And like I said, season 5 is set up around this creepy murder hotel. So I'm hoping it goes back to some of the elements I really liked in season 2, which was this setting, the place that all these characters were connected to was what made it really interesting. So maybe they'll get back to that. But this happens a lot with Ryan Murphy shows. He burns bright the first couple of seasons and then starts to fizzle. And next, Brent is going to talk about a show that Amazon is queuing up.
Oh, yeah. The famous Galaxy Quest, the show that, looping back to my Farscape reference from earlier, that we've heard a lot of people, including Claudia Black, and a lot of commentary on Farscape episodes saying that she loved the movie quite a bit. But we all love Galaxy Quest. It was hilarious. And it looks like Amazon Studios has signed on to make a TV series based on Galaxy Quest. It's not quite clear yet whether the original cast will be used at all. Remember, we had Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, and others. But the original director and co-writer and executive producers are on board, so that's going to be pretty cool. It looks like the reason behind this is because Paramount has been shopping a lot of its movie titles to try to do TV shows with them. You can understand why. They were big movie makers in the theaters, so they figure people will watch them on TV as well, and they've also done that with Minority Report, which is why we've got that coming up on Fox. So I think it's good news because Galaxy Quest was a hilarious movie, and if the creative people behind it, enough of them are involved, maybe it'll be a hilarious TV series.
Yeah, this is interesting, and we've touched on it. When you have something, especially like a comedy, sometimes it's just, script, actors, roles, everything just jives, and you have that gold of comedy. But then when you're trying to stretch it into a series, does it work? So I'm a little trepidatious, but because they do have some of those key players from, behind the scenes involved, I am very interested. So I'm glad to see that it's proceeding. Amazon has usually, much like Netflix, done very good with their series quality-wise. So, things are looking good, but I'm going to be hesitant too, because that comedy side, as we often talk, is a tough hit for everybody. It's what works for someone in comedy is not even funny for someone else.
Well, if you think about, the Yahoo deal for Community, right? The same writer showrunner got to do what he wanted there. So hopefully this will be similar, where these original writer, director, executive producers, they'll keep the elements that were funny there. Hopefully it wasn't the actors that made it funny, but the writing was there to spark it. And if you get similarly good actors, even if not the same ones, although a lot of those people might be available. What's Tony Shalhoub been in lately since Monk ended? Maybe he can be persuaded to come back. But I think this has a lot of possibility. I think this is actually a good idea.
Yeah, what's Tim Allen been up to?
Yeah, he's usually got a TV show going somewhere.
Well, this is a TV show. So, who knows? 50-50 odds. But he would be great. I loved his character in the show. It was, and he's a big sci-fi geek, so maybe he would be interested to come back. So let's wrap things up with a Tuner Minute. I recorded this one. It is called Synthetic Friends. We've been enjoying several shows with synthetic life forms as main characters for many years, all the way back to Rosie the Maid in the Jetsons, for me personally. But recently we've seen characters like Anita from Humans, who is a lot more human-like, though she's still a robot, basically. Or the young boy Ethan in Extant. And there are lots of other variations. Data, of course, from Star Trek Next Generation. Doc Yule from Defiance, who isn't exactly a machine, but she's bred to provide services. So I'm wondering, if technology does catch up to sci-fi television, have you thought about your future synthetic friends? Psychologists say there's no difference between the empathy we feel for characters on TV or real people, or real animals, or our pets. Do you envision someday you will have an emotional connection or relationship with a synthetic machine like that? Do you have one today? I'm not talking about romance or a sex bot, or even letting one babysit your children. But what about the kind of fondness and familiarity you may feel with acquaintances like the barista at your coffee shop, or your barber, or your hairdresser, or the people who do your dry cleaning? Do you think a drone could one day become your bestie? Or will these future synthetic creations remain to you artificial life and of no more significance than a toaster or a remote control?
Interesting. Yeah, by the way, you forgot one of the most important ones, the Cylons from the new VSG. They're a great example as well.
Yeah. But it's really come up in a lot of recent shows, too.
Yeah. What you talked about, have you already established any sort of connections to machines. And I actually have to say I did, because a little behind the scenes, folks, we had a little interruption here a minute ago because my Amazon Echo was hearing me talking about Amazon and started chiming in. And I developed kind of a connection to the Amazon Echo because she does things for me. She talks in a pleasant voice, and she'll do things that I ask her to do. She'll tell me things when I ask her questions. I kind of dig that. She's kind of cool. She'll play music for me, my favorite music when I want to hear some music, want to rock out or something. So a little bit there. So yeah, I mean, I can. It's kind of strange. I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I'm not very good with real people. So I probably could develop connections to artificial people a lot better.
Yeah, and being the computer guy, I mean, I'm also the type that talks to my different systems a little bit. I'm not saying I have a relationship with them, but I'm saying that I do kind of see certain personalities between my tablet and my laptop versus my Roku when I have to reboot them or when they do a good job. And certainly when you've got things like Siri on the iPhone and other things that literally talk back to you when you ask questions and do things, I'm very comfortable with these, robot overlords that are coming someday. So I'm perfectly comfortable with it. I certainly can see it being a bit of a niche that I have no issue with, whether it becomes, a little more than a toaster right up to a very, when the day comes, human-like entity of some type. So I'm totally there mentally now. It's not an unusual thing in my mind, which is probably why some of these shows click so well with me.
Well, that's interesting because I hadn't really thought about this, but in terms of it coming soon, I tend to think more that I'm going to have a robot that's like a Zumba or something, that does things that are, mostly chores that I don't want to do. But, you guys were talking about things today that you sort of say have characters, like your tablet or your Roku or something, which I don't really feel that way today. Although even my TiVo, which it actually, guesses what I might like and records stuff that I might be interested in. I don't have any particular, affection for it. I do like it a lot and I recommend it a lot. So that was really interesting to hear you guys talk about your answers because, maybe I'm behind the 8 ball when it comes to this. So I'll be very curious to hear our listener feedback on this if they have any. And the reason this question came up was because I was reading articles that were talking about in the brain, basically, empathy is empathy, whether it's real, meaning you're watching characters on TV, or it's a real person. In the brain and emotionally, it's triggering the same response. And we've been seeing this rise of, non-human robots in stories, and they're always being treated like humans. I'll be curious if that is actually the way things evolve, or if we end up having robots that look more like cats and dogs for a while before they get to humans, or if people treat them more like they treat their pets. So lots of interesting ideas out there. So I'm hoping we get some listener feedback on this one. And let's head on over to the back porch.
Today we talk about Defiance, The Last Ship, and Dark Matter.
Next, we're going to talk about shows in detail. We're going to talk about the season finale of Defiance for season 3, and Brent is going to start us off.
Yeah, first of all, I was really disappointed when I heard this was the season finale. Of course, it makes sense based on how it ended, but I was looking forward to next week, and I guess I'm really looking forward to next season. And we kind of got a glimpse of the answer that the showrunner said when he said that the next season, should he be renewed, and I sure hope this show is renewed, would explore some space-based stuff, and we got a glimpse of that, and I wondered how it would work, and we definitely see it. But first of all, before I get there, I am so pleased and fist pumped and kind of cheered when last we talked about Defiance, the end of the last episode. I said, as the episode was coming to an end and Kinsey had the baby, it looked like she was going to eat the baby. I was like, oh, Daytak, where are you? Where are you? And sure enough, Daytak shows up. Stama has to stall her and does a great job of doing it, by pleading and begging and saying she'll be, her slave and she'll do whatever Kinsey wants. And then Kinsey can eat her when she's, done with her. And it kind of tempts Kinsey to enough that she's delayed long enough for Daytak to come in and spear her through the head and stick her to the wall, which I thought was great. Sticks her to the wall, breaks off the little spear that comes out of his arm, and flees with everybody. And Kinsey's there, stuck to the wall, screaming and writhing, trying to get her head detached from this wall to follow them. And I thought that was just wonderful. It's amazing how these creatures are so. The Olmec are so resilient to a head trauma. In the previous episode, he had speared another one through the head, and he survived. He was just being taken for some medical treatment. So that was great for them there to escape. And then Doc Yule has this plan to get up to the ship. She thinks there's a way to get up there after they've freed her, of course, from the device that Kinsey implanted, and destroy it. And Datak agrees to go. He wants to go. Arissa's going to go, and Nolan's going to go, and Amanda was going to go, and then of course Amanda gets wounded seriously, so Arissa ends up going. But on the Amanda wounding thing, I remember seeing an article posted on our forum from one of our listeners about how the actor was cast to appear in some other show, and that might be a bad news for that character, for Amanda in the show. And sure enough, she has this very serious wound, and I'm like, oh no, it was right. The guy was right. She's going to go. She's going to leave the show. And then she seems to be recovering, and then she has a final stand, bleeding out and on the street, and kills the Olmec who are come to take Stama and the rest, and kills them all. And then Stama walks towards her, and Amanda collapses, and I'm like, no, she's going to die again. And then at the end, of course, we see that Amanda survives. She's healed up, and weeks or months later, after they've dedicated a new arch in Nolan's name, because up on the ship. The plan is to destroy the ship, to overpower it, but of course Doc Yule didn't tell everybody that she's going to stay and die with the ship, because that was the only way to do it. Basically, she had to detonate the bomb, basically, overpower the engines and don't let them vent out and let them implode or whatever, to destroy it. So she's going to do that. They send Datak back. They're about to send Nolan back, and Arissa says she's going to stay. And I'm sorry, guys, but I started crying at this point, the tearing up, because I just love that relationship between Nolan and Arissa, and the tears were running down my face at a lot of these scenes, especially the one where she says she's going to stay on the ship because she's going to, find these people a new home. She's going to fly off of the ship, and Nolan steps out of the pod and says just says one rule, she asks why he's there, and at that point I just lost it. I couldn't handle it anymore, and then he knocks her out and sends her back down. And then he says he loves her. And you can't hear her because she's being enveloped, but you see her lips saying, I love you too. And she drops down to the earth. And Nolan goes and frees Yule. And the two of them set off in this super duper ship across the galaxy. And who knows what they're doing. But that's kind of how it ends, with this great visual effect of following the trail of this ship through the galaxy. And also seeing what's happening back on Defiance. It's been a period of time, and like I said, Amanda's healed up, and Arissa's now the lawkeeper, and she's writing a journal, or writing a story about her father, and how proud she is of him, and how he succeeded at going into space and being a great father, and all of this stuff. And again, at this point, I'm bawling, and I can't stand it anymore. And how they dedicated a rebuilt portion of the arch, kind of a lighted, electronic version of the arch in his name, and so forth. So, if it doesn't get renewed, I will still think this was a great show. But I want it renewed because I want to see what happens, the adventures of Yule and Nolan in space, and how they rehook up with the people on Earth, or what goes on. I just want to see it. And if he's really traveling close to the speed of light, he might come back, and a lot of time has passed on Earth. So I think there's just so much great potential in this show that I want it renewed. Please, people, renew this show.
Yeah, I mean, as you described, such a well-done episode, and such a strong season, too. I've been a little up and down on Defiance, but it really it hit its stride this season and did a great job of storytelling and some great performances. I mean, really, the actors in here just are exceptional. And you got a chance to see several of them really shine, even if it was just for a few scenes here and there. And you mentioned many of the different interactions that were, just awesome to see. I mean, I loved even the small bit early on as you were describing that whole situation with Kenzie and the baby. Even when they made their escape, when he impaled her to the wall, and they're in the car, and Alak is complimenting his mother on being able to stall her and being willing to offer herself, to give enough time for him to get there. Daytech to get there, and she starts doing the typical stuff. Well, yes, I'm always looking to do what's best for the family, and the mother would do anything just like Christy, and Alak just jumps in, don't push it, Mom. So, I mean, that relationship is still there, still has the issues, but it's very entertaining to see. And as you said, the Arissa and Nolan stuff was just very touching, and a great way to do it and to set it up. And Doc Yule has been, so much more entertaining in the last few episodes as she's really had a chance to shine and make the sacrifice she did to allow, Defiance to survive and to allow everybody a chance from there. So that was great. And as you said, kudos to the showrunner, knowing that their renewal prospects are up in the air, that they gave us a very satisfying season ender that could be a series ender without having to feel like you were cheated out of something. So kudos to them there. I very much hope it comes back too, for that reason that they've really shown they can do some very entertaining stuff. So I have to wait to see if we get a shot at it.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the ratings for this season, but by far, I think this was the best season yet of the show. So I hope we get some more for sure. I loved the whole story arc for Doc Yule, with her. It just, even the visual imagery of her getting connected into the ship and her conversation back and forth with with Daytech when they're saying goodbye. They had such an interesting friendship between the two of them. And then when he puts the big spike in her head, the visuals for the ship itself are really awesome. When Nolan was trying to shut down all the vents, and then he has the fight with Kinsey. The pit part looked very fake, but the interiors of the ship I thought were pretty cool. Loved the imagery that you were talking about, Brent, when the ship actually leaves. And that whole ending music montage, I do ding this show for over-relying on music montages at the end. They used to do it a little too much, I thought. But this one was great. That David Bowie song, Everyone Says Hi, is one of my favorite songs, and it was done so well to tie together, Arissa's voiceover with what had happened since Nolan had left. That was just really, really beautiful. There was a great scene when Amanda is talking to Stama, and it all keeps coming back to the sister, Kendra, and the impact that character had on both of them. And I loved when Stama is saying how, it's really hard when the person you admire most just keeps telling you how much she hates you. And, maybe she'll internalize some of that in the future. I don't know. I had also read that casting stuff about Julie Benz, so I was really thinking she was going to die in the episode. So I'm glad maybe she's just doing a guest shot on that other show and not joining it for any committed stint. But I thought it was great as a season ender, story ender, and it sets up these really interesting possibilities for next season. If somehow they can get back or somehow bring more of the crew onto the ship, because it's going to be kind of lonely to be just Nolan and Doc Yule, although she is comedy gold. But I would like to see everyone back on Defiance a lot too. But I don't know, you could probably split the story if there's some bridging enemy that they can pull in or something.
Yeah, the whole Kenya thing does kind of hang over them, interestingly enough, with that weird relationship between Amanda and Stama. And, that's amplified by Amanda, essentially willing to sacrifice her life and bleeding out, trying to save Stama and her family and the others from being taken away. And Stama's reaction to that. So it's great stuff. There's a lot of stuff, potential for the future, which is why I really want to see this renewed. Not only what's happening in the spaceship, but on the ground, because we got that whole Stama and Amanda thing. But we also have Arissa, and you talked about it being really, well, you didn't talk about this, but you talked about the baby. Arissa being good with the baby, and Alak noticing that, and she's been good with the baby several times, and he actually comments about it. Alak does this time. So I have to wonder, Arissa doesn't have Tommy, Alak doesn't have Christy. Are they trying to show that these two are going to essentially, down the road, develop a relationship, and Arissa's going to be the adoptive mother of this? Because that'd be a crazy family. Arissa already comes from a crazy family, where her father adopted her after killing her parents. And now you potentially have this family where, she adopts this half human, half Castathan child in this relationship. So I don't know. There's just so much potential for this show. God, it's got to come back. I think I'm feeling the Twitter itch, guys. I think I might go back to Twitter.
We'll mention Continuum in the same Twitter comment, and maybe you'll get the showrunner from Continuum to petition for you too.
From the ratings point of view, I saw something earlier today that the Friday night lineup, actually, of the 3 shows that SciFi has this whole season, apparently Dark Matter had the best ratings, and Defiance and Killjoys were, not far behind, but we're down a little bit behind it. But we still don't know fate of any of those shows right now.
I mean, I've heard people liking all of them, so I would hope they would, try this lineup for one more season. Although I guess Defiance is probably the most expensive show, right? Because the size of the cast and the number of years it's been on, but it's kind of its anchor. Speaking of anchors, let's move on to the show about the ship with an anchor. Kevin's going to start off our discussion of The Last Ship.
Yeah, wow, I'm talking here about episode 11 of season 2, Valkyrie, and it was quite the emotional impact, talking about, Defiance and key things there. Well, nothing held back on this one either, both from what happens with some crew folks that we've been seeing all along, as well as just the bigger story arc. Let me kind of tell you how this one kind of hit me. This is the story where we've got the crew after, the whole thing that Ramsey pulled off, blowing up many of the ships in the harbor and creating that doctored video and made it look like it was the Nathan James. We end up with a small team of Nathan James folks on the beach trying to help out from all the people who were injured or killed or whatever. But they're also very resonant of the fact that that video is spreading. Ramsey's people have some network that allows them to communicate with cell phones all across the area very quickly. So they realize that they're kind of, folks aren't aware too much of them. They can be seen as people helping. But when that turns, it turns fast. And it sure does, because we had the guy that they had taken prisoner before who was with them, who turns very quickly when he gets an opportunity to talk about how these are the people who actually blew up all the ships and attacked you. And that doesn't go well and sends that team having to scurry off. And that very much reminded me, really, we've been kind of naturally on the show, as we watch the show, we know that our folks are the good guys. These are the people trying to help and everything else. But as we realize, the average citizen of the U.S., or the average person in the world, has no idea. And with all of the conspiracy theorists that are out there, including one that we kind of see someone impacted by that on the oil rig, they're very much reminded that when they're on the ship, they're sheltered and everybody realizes that, quote, we're the good guys. But when they start dealing with the general public, and how easily a public opinion can be swayed, things get very dangerous very fast. Aside from the team having to make a getaway and Tex getting himself shot in the behind, that's no big deal. But the bigger issue is when they're trying to find what is being used to propagate that signal. And again, being an IT and a technical person, I'm going to put all this aside on possibilities. But supposedly there's this big transmitter or repeater out on an oil rig that's being used to use Bluetooth somehow to send signals. And this is how the bad guys, Ramsey's group is able to communicate. So they send out a team, captain and a few key others, to head out there, see what's up, and take it down. Kind of a routine kind of stuff from what we've seen before. But not a routine mission by the time it gets going, because so many of the people back on the shore have seen the stuff about what the Nathan James did. It's not Ramsey's people that come out after them on that oil rig. It's just some, as they're called, Joe Six-Packs, people who kind of saw it, wanted to take things into their own hands and head out and actually have access to some rocket launchers or something. And they take a couple of shots at the oil rig with a handful of our people out there and do some major damage and send a few folks back to the ship in very bad condition and even kill off a couple of them. We lost 4 people in total. Maybe not our lead characters, but certainly some if you're like me, have become very familiar with and are going to miss quite a bit there. We lost Lynn and Walker and Chung at points from right on the oil rig to when they came back. Even the captain was severely injured, but we also lost a fairly new character there, Bivas, who was having quite the relationship, or trying to, or dancing around with Burke. They were quite entertaining, and we're thinking that might become a couple, but no. And watching Bivas die, because she took some shrapnel, and you could tell, once they got to the ship, she wasn't going to make it. So that, some good acting and very painful. It really hit home what's going on. And the captain, even when they made it back, trying to be the captain, but you could see him eventually passing out and having a serious wound that, Dr. Scott had to help with. So just makes the reality of war come very true here by losing a few people again, and also reminding us that, they don't have public opinion on their side. Even if they do have, the person who may be the president, they still have to somehow realize you need to do a war of information too, along with the physical might that goes into this. So that, and a little bit of maybe thawing or reducing of the tension between Dr. Scott and the captain, since she had to save his life. But as they said at one point talking, they're very much two peas in a pod, their stubbornness and all. But so maybe that'll get on a little more comfortable footing going forward. I don't know, but we're getting very close to the end of this second season, and it's staying very, very strong.
Yeah, talk about bad PR, and I definitely agree with your point about how things can turn on a dime. You have the little crew that goes ashore to help, and they seem to be helping, and then you have misinformation spread, and the video signal comes out, and everybody's jumping to conclusions, and things escalate really quickly for them. And then when they're out on this oil rig, I gotta admit, I really didn't understand how this was working. It seemed odd to me that if there is such an important communication device, there's nobody there except this, anarchist hacktivist person who isn't a follower of Ramsey. I guess she's an ally of Ramsey, and she is one of these people who's maybe been persuaded by conspiracy theories, but by having firsthand witnessing of what the ship crew are doing, she's basically changes sides and agrees, I think, to help Chandler at the end. So I like that. I really like the way they decided to edit the whole thing with the oil rig, because we don't actually see how the folks get injured. They spent more time on just what the ship saw, which is multiple explosions going off. Things look horrible. And then we're seeing, again, the ship's point of view, which is all these wounded coming in to be triaged. So I like that a lot. It definitely reinforced the human cost and the human sacrifice over, the whiz-bang effects and the violence that caused their injuries. So I like that a lot. And, I'm really curious how they're going to get out of this. If they'll be able to use mass communication for their benefit. Now, the signal's cut, but does Ramsey have like a plan B for this? Or how widespread is the misinformation at this point? Plus, this episode underscored there's lots of other wild cards out there. These were just some, Joe Six-Pack Americans who somehow have RPGs. So the danger is everywhere for the crew, and it really underscored how fractured things are right now.
Yeah, the hacktivist being an ally, not apparently not being immune, from what I gather, because she'd been isolated, so it was pretty clear that she's going to need the Navy's cure vaccine if she wants to continue surviving, I'm sure. I love seeing her, by the way. Tanya Raymonde, or however you pronounce her name. I loved, she was so familiar to me, and I'm like, oh, I love this actor. I wonder where she's from. And it dawned on me looking on her resume. She's been a guest starring in a lot of things, but mostly I remember her from that show that we talked about on our podcast called Death Valley. Remember about the police officers in L.A. or whatever dealing with undead? She was the really cool cop.
Yep.
The really cool cop in that show. But I'm looking forward to her joining the gang, as it were. I'm not sure that she's fully on board. Where he was kind of left with a either you come with us or you die sort of thing. So she came with them, and she's kind of watching what's going on. She might eventually realize that she's been mistaken, but who knows? I suspect she will, and I suspect she'll become an ally of theirs in some regard to help counter the bad press that they've been getting. We'll see. The loss of our Israeli officer was sad and was unexpected. I did like the little banter that they had back and forth, like when she noticed his shoes, and they're like, we'll talk about it later, and the Australian guy saying, she's got you now. So I guess I should have used the Wendy theory of as soon as anybody starts having, significant advancement in their character, they're dead, they're doomed, theory to realize that she was probably going to die, or he was going to die. But it was definitely her, and unfortunate. But yeah, we did lose some people we'd seen before. I mean, it wasn't just red shirts, although to some degree that I think we had seen that engineer who died in the initial explosion before. But when I did see him, and I saw him going and repairing the stuff, I thought to myself, red shirt, he's going to die. And sure enough, he did. So not a big surprise there, but it was impactful. I mean, again, we go back to that. I keep getting reminded of that voicemail we got, about how I don't like this show because they're the good guys. Nothing ever goes wrong for them. And I'm like, dude, are you still watching the same show? I mean, I've never thought that, but every week something bad happens to them. Yeah, they succeed sometimes because they are the good guys, and I like the good guys to succeed because they have a mission and an objective, and they're driven. But they get hit with so much bad stuff, including right now being hated by the world, essentially, as you guys have both pointed out. But a lot of progress on this one. We've got a few more episodes to go this season, so I'm going to be very curious to see where we end up. This show is, I guess we have 2 more episodes this season, but this show, like I've said before, it never seems to stay still for very long. We talked about shows like Teen Wolf and others that have gotten boosted schedules and they kind of drag out their seasons. This one, first of all, I hope to goodness they never do expand the season on this because it seems to be very well paced, but they never stand still. It's just boom, 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 move, 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 and I just love that about this show.
Yeah, I agree. They've been pacing the story really well. They definitely heap, small victories on top of big woe and consequences that comes with it. So net, I think they're still in the hole, but there's sunlight, right? Which is the thing I do like about this show is there's, certainty of purpose and a desire for a positive outcome. Whereas some shows, you sort of are like, does the show overall hope that the world's going to get better by the end? I mean, some of these apocalypse shows, there's not enough hope for me, but that's one thing I like about this show. TNT seems pretty consistent that all their shows are 13 episodes, at least, at least the summertime ones are. So I don't think they're going to mess with that formula. And based on the success of this season, I don't think they're going to mess with the formula. I did want to comment a little bit more about the deaths of some of the characters, because I really liked that young engineer. He was the one who figured out stuff in season 1 when the ship was sort of dead in the water. And he was the guy who, when the chief engineer got wounded, he had to step up. He was really sort of in over his head. So I liked that character a lot. I was very disappointed when he died. And I really liked Ravit. She was awesome. And I was assuming, she was new to this season, so I figured, maybe some of the other folks might die, but she'd stick around. So that was very surprising. And a wonderful death scene with her and the other crew. I think that's one other thing they do really well in this show, is it's not only the character who dies, but the people who are impacted directly because of their connections to their crew members.
Yeah, the actor I said I loved, Tanya. I'm surprised you guys didn't point out that she was in 19 episodes of Lost. Do you guys remember from that? I don't remember.
Yeah, she was the daughter. She was Alex.
Oh,
Danielle's daughter.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Now that you say who she
like
was.
you said, Brent, recognized her face definitely from a lot of stuff.
Cool. And now we're going to move on to the season finale for Dark Matter, which was 2 episodes back to back. And for me, it was actually 3 because I was an episode behind. So the thing I really like about this show is this whole problem of these people don't know who they can trust. And we got a lot of that, especially in the final episode, which I was completely surprised that 6 turned them into the Galactic Authority, or at least that was the implication at the end. Because, one, I love Roger Cross, the actor. I like the character. And it should have been like a red beacon because he was the nicest, most rational guy on the ship. And I've read a lot of theories online speculating that, he was undercover and the other crew figured out who he was and that's why they were going to kill him. maybe, but I have to admit, I was thinking it was 5 all along who had knocked out the android and was behind everything, because she seemed a little too comfortable with her gun, and she seemed to be fomenting the paranoia, which is sort of what the person who is behind it would want to do. So really well constructed, I thought, the way that they led up to the whole betrayal. And then we had the whole bit with learning a little bit more about 2 and the escape from the Will Wheaton compound. I thought there was some fantastic fighting between the android. There was also a great line when the android is sort of talking to her avatar before going on the mission, and she says, "You're a machine," and she says, "I'm a machine with friends," which is also part of what inspired that 200 minute. So there was just some great stuff in here, because it's all the churning character issues getting mixed up with figuring out, who's behind their problems, which they've done consistently across this season. And there were some great conversations where you have 2 and 3, I think, talking about why she picked him instead of 1 to pair up with her. And she's saying, just because we're sleeping together doesn't mean that anything in our crew life changes. And there was just a lot of those little character moments that I thought were really well done in this episode. And I don't know about you, but I'm really curious if we're going to have a jump ahead, whenever we find out if the show's been renewed, or if it's going to pick right up with them being incarcerated and finding out what 6 is up to.
Yeah, that was a big surprise. Surprise to me. The mystery was done very well. I found myself, whenever I'm sitting here trying to figure out in my head what's going on, I know they're doing a good job with it, but I was thinking to myself, okay, it can't be somebody who was hiding on the ship from the previous crew, because the android, when she saw this person, said, "Oh, hi," and so it's obviously somebody who either was or looked like somebody. So then I thought, oh, maybe it's the real version of 1. And so I started with that theory for a while, and I'm like, no, that doesn't seem. Maybe then I thought, well, maybe 1 has been pretending to be, or the real version has been pretending to be 1 all along. And no, that doesn't seem. I never really got to 5 like you did. I never really thought her. I never thought 6 ever would have been the one doing this. Never even occurred to me. I thought 3 for a while, but then I realized, no, he seems to be. And by the way, I don't know about you, Wendy, but I'm sensing this real potential for some epic shippiness, even though it's kind of an odd combination between 2 and 3. And I think we might get a kind of a really good relationship between them in the future. But anyway, that's for future stuff. But because we've seen in a previous episode how, even though he's a cold-hearted kind of jerk sometimes, how he can be very open and very warm and very compassionate with that woman that he had put into suspended animation to save her and had that relationship with her. So anyway, on to other things. The Will Wheaton episode was interesting. I love Will Wheaton, but I have to admit his acting was kind of stiff in this one, and it kind of took me out of it. Normally I really enjoy the stuff he's in, but in this one I'm like, I almost wish he'd cast somebody else, because he was, I don't know if he was doing it on purpose or what, but it just wasn't working for me. It seemed too campy to some degree, or too stiff. I don't know what was going on. But I loved the part where the android, like you said, tells her virtual self, she's got friends, and she's convinced she has friends, and how she goes on the mission with them. And I love the scene, maybe Kevin will mention this too, but I love the scene where, they're flying the shuttle, and she just opens the hatch and just casually walks out and falls, a couple hundred feet to the ground. I thought that was great. And also the scene where they're on the shuttle and they're saying, what's keeping her? And one of them says, well, she's going to have to sneak in unnoticed. And then we cut to her just kicking everybody's ass. Okay. And I loved, if you think she doesn't have any emotion at all, the struggle she has as she's approaching that device, where she's using the last little bit of her function as she's breaking down to just reach out and just pull the wires and disable the device, which of course enables her to move, but also saves, too, just at the last second. as they're about to finish the job of cutting her skull open. They'd already made an incision, but they're about to finish, and she's able to break the bonds and cut the guys up, and pretty bloody. So you kind of can imagine what the video looked like of her escaping from the first place. But and then who is that old guy, that Will Wheaton's talking to? It's almost like, let's flash back to our news articles about the Looking Glass show. It's almost like they were using her as a prototype for creating a body and putting an intelligence into it and a personality and memories and a brain, basically. And they were going to do that for this other person, because this other person asked the question, how old is this body that he's in? And it's like 20-something years old, and it looks like he's 90-something or 100-something. And so, what's going on there? I obviously, Will Wheaton's going to return. The old guy's going to return at some point. There's going to be some stuff there. So that's a pretty cool setup. But 6 and the Galactic Authority, you have to wonder, is it because of his revelation of him being the good guy and him being set up and him being framed as a terrorist and everything, and maybe him realizing, well, these people, with their memories gone, seem pretty decent, but they clearly are bad people, and maybe I can get a pardon or something, or maybe I can do the right thing. You gotta wonder what's going on. I don't think they're in on, all of them are in on some kind of plan, because I don't think they would have ever wanted themselves in the hands of the Galactic Authority. So, wow, very interesting. And I like how they also dragged the android off. That's interesting, too. They didn't just leave her as part of the ship. They dragged her off as a prisoner. So what's going on there?
Yeah, I enjoyed the next to last episode, a little bit more about 2. Will Wheaton, yeah, I get what you're saying. He didn't exactly, cement for me that he was the evil scientist or whatever. I don't know. It's Will. I do like him, but I'm not sure this was a good casting for him. But it was okay. But learning a little more about her, and this is where, she had come from, and some stuff with that, and the old guy, interesting things. So I kind of liked that a bit. I did enjoy the finale. I did enjoy that they threw the curveball of everybody, getting captured except 6. But I thought that last episode to me, dragged a little. The whole, no, you're the bad guy. No, you are. No, you are. It just went on for a little too long for me. Not to take away from enjoying it, but from taking away to it being really one that I loved. So it was still interesting to try and determine who it was going to be. It does now naturally make you think about, what have we seen 6 do in the last few episodes? He has constantly been trying to get 5, especially to get off the ship, to just take her stuff and go. So has that been more than just him being a good guy? Has he been known he's going to be doing this and truly believes she doesn't deserve to be captured? I don't know. Guess we'll have to wait to find out. Hopefully we get the second season to see what it might be. And yeah, the whole thing with the android, right down to her departure from the shuttle, and the fun they had with, it's going to take her a while, was some good stuff. I wish we'd had a little more with the android now this season that way, getting involved in some of their missions. It might have made for some fun. So, it was a good first season. It's got some interesting bits. As you folks know, I'm more of a fan of the Killjoys for the pair, but this one is certainly one that's got some good stuff, and I would really like to see it come back for a second season. So they did their job there. I guess we'll have to wait to see to where they take it as to whether or not that's a really like a step up and some interesting things, or if it's a little more of the same old stuff. It got a little old, the whole, I don't trust you, you don't trust me thing, for me near the end of the season a little bit.
Well, I do agree that it took an awful long time. I didn't really need to see 5 go through every conduit. I got it.
Yeah, every dresser drawer.
I got it that she was searching. I didn't need to see all that. I do agree with that. And Brent, you talked about the 2 and 3 pairing them up, and I admit I am feeling more of the shippy between those 2 from these couple of scenes and the last couple episodes than when they were just bunk buddies, earlier. There seems to be more of actual trust and connectedness there than before. So that's possible. I'm okay if she's with one, although I do find one kind of whiny and self-involved a little bit.
Just kind of? There's a lot of people who want to hit him with a 2x4.
Yeah. No, and I agree. They were sort of ringing that bell between him and 3 pretty hard across these last couple. Will Wheaton, maybe it's because he's too young to play a character that's maybe supposed to be that diabolical and all-powerful. I don't know. Because I thought he was really good in Eureka. Maybe he needs to play a character that's lighter or more comedic or more youthful. I don't know. Brent, as you were talking, though, I'm getting a crazy Brent theory. What if the 6 that we saw with the GA wasn't actually 6? What if it was like one of those body pod traveling versions? Or what if the 6 that's been on the ship has been one of them that somehow can last for a long time? Because we saw him get knocked out, but we never saw him again, right?
Got knocked out where?
6 got knocked out.
Oh, and on the slab where they said he was injected with the same stuff and somebody injected him, had him gotten close. And I was thinking he injected himself with something that just knocked him out for a while. Right, but that's why I'm wondering if he even did. Maybe his 2 versions are in cahoots or something. I don't know. I like 6 so much, I want to come up with a good reason why he did this. Or that the 6 that we've come to know isn't the one that we saw in that final moment. And I think that's going to have to be the final moments for us for this week. But we'll have a last call for you to enjoy soon as well. Before we go, I want to thank all of our listeners for your comments and feedback and interest. We really appreciate it. We'll see you again soon. Catch you next time.
Have a great week, everybody.
If you'd like to contact Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, we offer a variety of feedback options, including email at feedback@tuningintoscifitv.com, voicemail at 206-202-4182, Skype voicemail at Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, or you can visit our blog and forums at tuningintoscifitv.com. And finally, you can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/tuningintosci-fi or at Facebook by following the link on our website. Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV was hosted by Kevin Batchelder, Wendy Hembrock, and Brent Barrett. The theme music for Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV is by Beatnik Turtle. Used with permission. Listen to Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV on Stitcher Radio on Demand. Download the free app today at Stitcher.com. You've been listening to Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, episode 350, recorded August 29th, 2015.